Marcus, thanks for the overview. And now it's my honor to introduce our distinguished panelists. I'd like to acknowledge a recent addition to our panel, Father John Parks. And Father Parks is a respected priest within the Diocese of Phoenix. He serves as the pastor of St. Joseph's Parish and is the prior director of evangelization for the diocese. And something not a lot of people know is he is also a Hall of Famer along with Erica Kirk at Notre Dame Prep High School here in Scottsdale, Arizona.
It's just like for general character.
Kelsey Reinhardt, the president and CEO of Catholic Vote, a graduate of Notre Dame University, and a former Dominican sister. She served as a director of media and evangelization for Catholic Vote before becoming the CEO in June of this year. Jose Pulido, president of Learning and Development, where he trains Catholics in communication skills to stand up for their faith and morals, an alumnus of Yale University and a former political advisor in Washington, D.C. Our final panelist, who really doesn't need an introduction, Jack Posobiec. One of the most important parts is Jack is a devout Catholic, was a military intelligence officer. He's host of the podcast Human Events Daily, and most importantly, a member of the Turning Point Action Team. And thank you, panelists, for being here with us to share your thoughts on how to inspire Catholics to vote. I'd like to start the conversation with this question. Kelsey, what do you think is the greatest obstacle preventing Catholics from involvement in the political, or at least even voting?
Wow, that's a great question. Thank you so much, Cindy. I want to start out maybe with the most important point, that Catholics are the linchpin in every election. In the last 50 years, every presidential election except for one was decided by the Catholic vote. That's because the Catholic vote is also a little bit swingy. So you saw in the 2020 election, the Catholic vote went for Biden narrowly 50 to 49. In the last election, it went 65% for Trump. So marshaling the Catholic vote is an important aspect of what we do. Now, the question is a little bit difficult, and I'm interested in hearing what the other panelists have to say. Why is it so difficult for Catholics to vote when you look at the numbers of evangelicals who vote versus Catholics? I have a hypothesis, probably not applicable to this room, but that people have what I call a temptation to political pietism. Politics is too messy, it's too dirty, I don't want to be involved. If I just pray and I go to Mass, why do I have to involve myself in this ring? Answering that question, I think, is going to be definitively important when you go out and you invite people to be involved in this process, which is a moral duty. So I want to ask Jose, he might have a different thought here, and Jack, what they think the greatest obstacle is, because it's certainly not just one answer.
Yes, confidence. We as Catholics need to feel more confident, and we need to be able to give that confidence to others. When we look in Acts, we see that even at the very beginning of St. Paul's ministry, he is being called to share the faith with Gentiles, kings, and Israelites. And that's because of how he was prepared. All of you here, whether it's Ali, Kim, other people, you are ready to share the faith. You are ready to participate. You're ready to vote. And the reason is, and this I know this for sure, is because you can love. You can love, God said so. If you can talk to your family member in the Christmas dinner table, if you can talk to your neighbor, if you can research things with charity, you are prepared to do this. You can love via your vote, you can love via your conversation, you can do this.
So Jack, how is voting an act of love? You were resonating when I said it's a little bit despairing out there, political pietism is real. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, thank you so much for again having me. Thank you so much for everyone for being here on a Saturday morning. I know it's early. I know there's a lot to do, but personally, I couldn't think of anything better to do this morning to be here and give praise to our eternal Creator and our eternal Savior, Jesus Christ, the King of the universe, which we are about to do very shortly here at Adoration. And that's why I made sure to be here as well. I got my family here, my very sleepy 5-year-old in the front row. And look, you know, when it comes to political piety, I also wanted to add, because you see two sides of this, because on one side, you see the political piety of people saying, oh, well, I don't want to get involved in politics. But then on another side, you see people who are so pious, they will say, oh, well, Donald Trump isn't, you know, Catholic enough, and he's not pro-life enough, and he's not this enough, so I'm not going to vote because I can't vote for a guy like that. And I would say, I understand it, I get it, we're pushing him in the right direction, but at the same time, if you don't come out, then Kamala Harris gets in, because it is a binary. You have to look at politics as it is not a vacuum, it is relative. And if she got in, remember, when she was in the United States Senate, what was she doing? She was demonizing the Knights of Columbus. She was demonizing the Little Sisters of the Poor. She was there when Merrick Garland and Chris Wray were sending the FBI after traditional Catholics who were praying their rosaries a little bit too hard. And I said, you know what, you want to come for me? Here's my rosary. Please come for me. Because this is absolutely key. So you need to break that and understand, get people to understand that if we let Marxists win, the Catholics are the ones they're going to come first for. And in fact, they've already started, haven't they? They've already started. And what I would say then, to answer your question though, how do you convert those Catholics from, you know, sort of just going to Mass to becoming politically active? It's really simple. And the way I teach it to my boys is I actually use the Charlie Brown Christmas special to explain this. The Charlie Brown Christmas special, which is my favorite, and I think will always go down as the best one, because we know of all the classic Christmas specials, that is the only one where when he's asked about this question, what is the true meaning of Christmas? Linus gets up in a public school, in a public forum, a secular forum. And remember, this was the 1960s, so this was the height of the Cultural Revolution when they were trying to drive God out of everywhere. He gets up and he says, and he just starts quoting directly from Luke. And he explains the truth of the matter, that it was Jesus Christ as God's only Son who came to this world so that those who believe in him may be saved. That is the reason for Christmas. And Linus's testimony in public meant that being a Christian, being a Catholic, is not something that you just do behind closed doors on a Sunday morning or Saturday vigil, right? I know people are going to St. Mary's. Have to check the schedule on that, sweetheart, if we can make it. But we'll probably be at St. Mary's at some point this weekend, I'm sure. You must become Catholics in public. And so for me, look, I'm going to carry this wherever I go, because you need that spiritual defense, because we are living through spiritual warfare. And don't be afraid. And when people see you doing it, they will follow you. They will follow.
Those are some powerful words. Father Parks, what does the church teach about the involvement of the laity in the political sphere?
Yeah, to put it simply, it's your job. So, thank you.
Wow. He's good. You should do this professionally.
So my job as a priest is to help form people in the Catholic faith, to feed them spiritually through the sacraments of the church. But at the end of the Mass, I say, go and make disciples of all nations, or go and proclaim the gospel of God. In the Old Mass in Latin, it was ite missa est, and ite is the command form in Latin. So the priest is saying, you've heard about Christ through the scriptures, you've received Christ through the Eucharist, now be Christ to the world. So to put it simply, the role of the laity is to bring everything under the dominion of Christ. There's an old saying that if Jesus is not the Lord of all, he's not the Lord at all. So if he's the Lord of every part of your life, as Jack's saying, if he's the Lord of my heart, he's the Lord of my church, then when I'm a Catholic everywhere I go, that's not called imposing my faith, that's called integrity. I'm the same person before God all throughout the world. So the role of the laity is to form their conscience well according to the Catholic faith, and then to bring everything under the dominion of Christ to be salt and light in the world.
Can I actually, I'm talking out of turn, but something I heard recently about be salt and light, and Dr. Harold Marshall talks about this, be salt and light, go out there and be salty. And what does salt and light do? This is so interesting. What do salt and light do? And Christ calls us to be salt and light. Salt and light are both change agents. They change the environment in which they're in. So salt can be a preservative. Salt can be a spice. Salt changes the food. It changes the texture, the flavor, the quality of it. And what does light do? We all know. Light affects darkness. Light gives us the ability to see. So when he says be salt and light, it means change the environment in which you're in.
Very well said. Very well said. I would just add, building off of Father Park's comment, Jesus didn't say, go out to all the earth and stop at the ballot box, or stop at the public square. And you look at what happens when Catholics absent themselves from the public square. I mean, how is it possible that we're in a situation where we cannot understand the difference between men and women? I mean, I played basketball for the University of Notre Dame. You might have noticed I'm a little tall. There are only 6 women, well, when I played, which was eons ago, there were only 6 women in the history of the sport who could dunk. And every sophomore boy over 5'10" spends his entire sophomore year learning how to dunk. I mean, the fact that we cannot understand and live basic truths in the public square, that's a failure on our part. And we need to accept responsibility, because there are elements of the light, the truth, and the gospel that we need to be bringing to every aspect of the public square. Now, Jose, talk to us a little bit about how evangelization fits into this, because you've written a book, How to Evangelize Anyone. Obviously, there's probably some principles in here that apply both to the political life and to the practice of proclamation of the gospel.
Absolutely. The key to evangelize is you have to start with love and end with love. That's what the Catechism says, even the one from 1566. Start with love and end with love. Now, to do that, and this is why I'm so excited about this panel, that we're basically warming up the stage for the Eucharist, is you need to do 2 things. You need to feel seen, and you need to feel hope. Now, why do you need to feel seen? All of you have done so many quiet sacrifices. Quiet sacrifices, whether it's knocking on doors and them slamming on you, whether it's proposing something to a family member and them hanging up on you. Bring those things to the Eucharist. Feel seen in front of Christ. And after you are seen, after your sacrifice has been acknowledged, after he says to you, well done, Kim, well done, Angie. After that, then start to see Christ. And what does Christ have? He has a vision for you. He has a vision, and that is, what if every Catholic was heard? What if every Catholic was at the table? What if every Catholic could share what they believed, and people thought, not only, wow, that's important, but also, I'm so glad he spoke. I'm so glad she spoke. Be seen in front of the Eucharist and then receive his hope.
Now, Jack, I want to turn to you for just a second, because one of the things that has fascinated me is that our non-practicing Presbyterian president has recognized the importance of prayer and kicked off an entire initiative for America 250 called America Prays. And what he's asking is for every person in this nation to join him 1 hour a week in praying for the nation. What insight does he have into the importance of prayer for the recovery of our nation, and why do you think this is so significant?
Well, that's a great question. I actually had the opportunity, the honor really, of joining this initiative, and the White House Faith Office reached out to me and asked if I would come join the coalition's kickoff at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. And if you guys haven't been there, it is the best museum in all of Washington, D.C. You have to go there. You can skip the other ones. It's amazing. It's so awesome. Jack, he's in the front. Jack, do you like Museum of the Bible? All right, good answer. And wait, Jack, which play did we see there? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So they put on plays about Narnia. They put it's fantastic. Look, we need to understand that it is prayer, it is the return to God that will bring our country forward because, and as you said before, you were mentioning, this trans athletes and the switching of the genders. And what is that really driven by, right? It's driven by a denial of truth. It's driven by a denial of truth. And the acceptance of God, walk it backwards. If you believe in God, that means you believe the Bible is true. And if you believe the Bible is true, then that means it must be written by the author who wrote it must also be the author of truth, which means that all truth was authored by God because he authored everything. So that when we return to God, we are also returning to the truth. And to have a well-ordered, a truly ordered society, republic, community, town, family, it means that we are ordering it based on God's truth. And I believe that President Trump, no, he's not Catholic, but if you notice, he's got Melania around him, he's got J.D. Vance around him, I pop in from time to time. So he's got a lot of Marco Rubio, he's got a lot of Catholics that are around him, and I think that they're working on him, they're praying on him. And let me just say, December 8th this year, when you saw what the White House put out, a full-throated statement, a presidential proclamation, praising our mother, praising Our Lady, praising Mary on the date of the Immaculate Conception. And when you think about and I'll just say it, I had tears in my eyes reading it, because we went from just 1 year ago, when our president was, well, basically Barack Obama. Think about it. To right now, if you go to the official White House website, that you will see some of the most sacred words ever written are right there on the official website of the White House of the United States of America. Hail Mary, full of grace. It's there. We've come a long way.
I saw that he also made December 26th a federal holiday, which is in honor of Christmas. So,
Let's go.
Father, listen, I have this question a lot as the president of Catholic Vote, looking at where Catholics are in America. How many of our problems are political, and how many of our political problems are a result of the spiritual problems that we're facing?
Yeah, amen. I taught high school for 4 years, and so whenever I learn the truth of the Catholic faith, I always think to myself, how would I explain this to a junior in high school or to Joe Rogan? Those are my two things I think about.
Ouch.
And,
oh, man.
And one thing I would want...
And they call me the controversial one.
Yeah. And one thing I would want modern people to know is that your heart is like an altar, and it has to worship something. Your heart has to worship something. And as Americans, we think usually like a consumer mindset, like I can take from this, take from that. But the Bible does not think in those terms. The Bible thinks there's a kingdom of darkness and there's a kingdom of light. And you're serving one or the other. And St. Thomas Aquinas says that if you don't serve the living or true God, you'll serve one of four things, which is power, money, pleasure, or honor. There's an old saying that politics usually comes downstream from culture, so that when you worship the wrong things in your culture, that will manifest itself in your politics. And so Christianity believes that a changed world comes about through changed men and women. That Christianity appeals to people directly, that you need to transform your life, you need to repent, you need to change, and if you change, then you begin to change the people around you. So there's a lot of political problems we have, and I think the way we're going to transform them is we have to go at the level of the heart. Because every revolution starts in the same place, which is in the human heart. So we have to get to that level. Now, I want to say this because it's very important. The law and the politics, though, do affect culture. They actually affect each other. So sometimes people, when they overemphasize the culture, they sort of forget about the law or politics. There's a famous speech given by Martin Luther King Jr. at the UCLA. And he says, the law cannot change the heart, but it can restrain the heartless. The law cannot make a man love me, but it can prevent him from lynching me. And I think that's pretty important. So the law can also do that. We also need laws because they're like a deterrent and they're a teacher. They teach us what's good and valuable. So culture and law go back and forth, but the deepest level of our culture is human hearts making decisions, which is why evangelization and changing politics are really, they go hand in hand with each other.
Great answer, Father. Thank you.
If I could just add to that, Charlie and I talked about that one time, and we were talking about Andrew Breitbart's great maxim that politics is downstream of culture. And Charlie and I were sort of trying to figure this out and say, okay, well then, if we need to get the culture right, how do we figure that out? And where we came down to it was politics is downstream of culture, and culture is downstream of the Spirit.
Well, certainly the Catechism says that it's the duty of every Christian to respect and awaken a love for the true and the good in every man. So I want to talk to you, Jose, about what practical advice would you give for changing culture, for changing hearts, and for changing the political landscape that we live in?
Hope. It's about heroic hope. And what do we mean by heroic hope? I want you all to think about just the most absurd thing, like the most absurd, beautiful thing, something that hurts when you think about it. Maybe it's having a faith-filled conversation with that family member who left the church. Maybe it's bringing all of your colleagues to daily mass. Maybe it's going to your neighbor and them saying, you know what, you're right, I should have prayed to the Blessed Mother earlier. That's what we need. We need heroic hope. We need to desire something good so much that it's sacrificial in and of itself. And in order to get that sort of help, I encourage you to run, not walk, run to the Holy Family. And the reason why is that they will teach you practical skills for hope. All of us can make a better country, a better church, a better family, even a better heart by learning 3 things. Write them down. Dream like Joseph. Talk like Mary. Make all things new like our Lord Jesus Christ. Yes, and we can do those now, and we can grow. You can love now. You can become a craftsman of love tomorrow. You can love. God said so.
I think Jose is not wrong, because despair, which is the opposite of hope, is one of the greatest political obstacles I think that we face. I live in the state of Colorado, which is...
My condolences.
Thank you.
Great skiing, though.
Great skiing. I live in the state of Colorado, and one of the most vibrant archdioceses in the country. And one of the things that I've been shocked by, because Catholic Vote has sponsored 3 ballot initiatives in that state against parental rights, so that their children can't be transed without their knowledge, no boys and girls sports, and against human child sex trafficking. And what's been fascinating to me is that the secular society is awakening in this coalition faster than the Catholics are. We ran these ballot initiatives in the churches, and the percentage that we received was not near what our friends who were secular atheists were pouring in, because moms and dads who woke up said, we can't let this happen. What's happened with the Catholics? We can't win this fight. Why try again? Why pour more money in? We've lost the last 3 initiatives. We cannot think like that. When Jose says, speak about hope, hope is a theological virtue, very important. Hope is a natural virtue in the political sphere, is also important. Cling to hope. So, Jack, what would you say in terms of political advice, spiritual advice for this crowd moving forward?
Look, when it comes down to it, the best thing that you can do, and of course, Tyler would say, well, make sure you're joining 20% action, make sure you're doing out there and doing the ballot chasing and all the initiatives, and of course we need to do that. My brother Kevin and I, who's right here in the front row, we spent almost all, I would say, the fall of 2024, going up and down every single church we could find, Latin Mass, even Polish Mass, English Mass, Novus Ordo, whatever, going to churches, trying to drive that ballot out as much as possible all across the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania where we're from. Because when you look politically speaking, where are the Catholics most concentrated? It's Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Some of the highest percentages. Arizona too has a ton, by the way. Arizona has a ton. These are the swing states. Why is that? Because they have the highest percentage of Catholics. So if you go out there and you engage these groups, you can win. And by the way, you don't have to, I don't know, Tyler's going to be upset if I say this. You don't have to go out there and be flying the Turning Point flag and wearing your Trump hats, although we do encourage it. But what I would also say is, if you are doing that, make sure that you are also living your Catholic faith. Make sure you're going to Mass. Make sure you're receiving the sacraments. Make sure you're going to confession. Make sure you're actually going and doing all the steps that you need. Jack is, he's working on his first confession, right, Jack? He's got a couple more classes. So you've got to live it, and you've got to live it publicly.
All right. Now we're going to begin the better part of this panel, which is something because this was a great panel. So I want to give a round of applause to all the participants.